I'm Christy. This is Anna, and we're talking about movies tonight.
Yep.
That should be agnostic to whatever I end up titling this.
It works, right?
Yeah, it works. We were going to talk about horror movies this year, but Anna has only seen 3 horror movies this year, so
So bad. I should be ashamed, but I watched a lot of other good movies, so I don't think it was like a complete waste, but I know that I like bombed the October horror movie challenge this year. Um, Stupendously bombed it. So I'm fine with that though. There's so many movies out there. It's really hard to keep up with everything.
yeah, there are so many horror movies in particular because it's the only genre that actually makes money anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but you went to Noir City, so you saw a bunch of film noir this year.
I did. Oh my gosh, it was great. So I went to the Redford Theater in Detroit. And this is my second year of going to Noir City. Last year, I just thought, you know what the hell? Let's give this a shot. I'm going to take a weekend, and stay up there. And it was great. And this year, unfortunately, last year, Eddie Muller couldn't attend. He was sick at the last minute and had to stay home. But this year he made it out, so it was fantastic seeing him introduce and talk about each of the movies prior to their screening. So it was incredible. The lineup this year, I've got to kind of cheat sheet it here because it was like 8 movies, 4 double features altogether. So that's the wrong list. I'm so ill prepared. Classic. I know they started with Key Largo. That was, I think, the opening film.
That has one of my favorite lines in all of film noir, and it is like, "There's a whole lot of guns in the world, but there's only one Johnny Rocco."
Oh man, and like Eddie G is a real bastard in that movie. Just an incredible performance. Well, I mean, everyone in that one.
Well, that's the film that Claire Trevor won an Oscar for too. I
Yeah,
mean, that's the
yeah.
film that she made like right after. I want to say it's the film that she made right after Raw Deal, but it might have been right after Murder My Sweet, because they're all like right grouped real together.
Yeah, kind of bang, bang, bang. And I think this year, I'm hoping I don't get the years mixed up. I've only been to 2 of these, but after you watch like that many movies all together, it gets a little mushy. But I'm pretty sure that this year, with the exception of one film, they were all 1948 movies that were released in 1948. I think there was one movie outside of they had Odds Against Tomorrow. That was the outlier, but it was because they wanted to honor Harry Belafonte, and it was kind of the perfect time to do that and to throw in this film. Great. I had never seen Odds Against Tomorrow. But there was, I think, one other movie that it was like released, or it was made in 47, but actually didn't get released until 49. So Eddie Muller just split the difference and said it's a 1948 film, like just to include it in the lineup. But Raw Deal was in the lineup too. I've got the movies. If I can exit camera for just a moment, I have a whole stack of them. So, Odds Against Tomorrow was on the docket. They Live by Night, which was fantastic. I love Mason Barley Granger. Who amongst us? The Big Clock, That was the closing film, or no, that was the first half of the final double feature. The closing film was Moonrise, which is one that I never even heard of it before, and that
That's Jean Gabin, right?
it's Moonrise is Frank Borzage.
Yeah, Borzage. Yeah,
Yeah, so I've got it here. So it's
yeah.
one of the Criterion ones that I picked up. Um, that one was just like, this is like heartbreaking in a way. I mean, this guy's just never going to escape his destiny, type of film. So
That's very on brand for Frank Borzage films. I don't know if you've
yeah,
seen anything else by him, like Seventh Heaven or Lucky Star or Street Angel. I mean,
mm-mm.
he was the king of the early '30s poetic melodrama. Um,
Yeah. I mean,
he shares a big box set with Murnau because they both worked at Fox at the same time.
oh, okay, nice. I'll have to look that one up because
Well,
I'm really
it's very expensive now because it's way out of print. It's
oh
about
no,
it's about the same size as that Ford
I
at
was
Fox
gonna I was
box.
gonna ask that obnoxiously huge
It
box
is.
set.
It is. It's absolutely gigantic, and there's only like 4 films from Murnau, and then the rest are all Frank Borzage films. So
Oh my gosh. Yeah, Key Largo, Raw Deal, Sorry, Wrong Number, which is classic, but boy, I don't know, watching that on a big screen and big screen with Barbara Stanwyck just kind of screaming the whole time. Um, it got like a little annoying. I feel like that one was maybe like better in memory.
I think it's a better radio play than it is a film.
I think so too. I think it seems a little more suspenseful, um, when everything's just not right in front of your eyes. And then the last one, and this is all out of actual viewing order, but Roadhouse
I just
with
bought Roadhouse. I bought it
yeah.
because I bought it in the Kino sale that was going on at the same time as the Criterion sale, and I didn't buy anything from Criterion because I spent all my money on film noir from the Kino sale.
On the keynote. They got to stop doing those at the same time.
Oh, they all do it at the same time because there was also an Arrow sale and an Indicator sale, and it's like every goddamn boutique label in the world has. Well, I mean, it's right before Christmas, the whole 9 yards.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's prime buying time for that kind of stuff. They know what they're doing, for sure. But yeah,
I mean,
Roadhouse was. I wouldn't say that it's a great film. It's solid enough. It's very much shot on a soundstage, like even the outdoor scenes. There's this weird layer of artifice to the whole thing that kind of adds to the unsettling nature of it. Richard Widmark is incredible. He's just like the cinema's greatest bastard, whatever.
yeah, I get the feeling that he got tired of those kind of roles.
Yeah, I do. I feel bad. I'm sure he probably wanted to break out of that, but he was just so good at it that, and I mean, you got to eat, right?
Right,
So,
right, right. I mean, I'm sure that he loved getting like Harry Fabian in Night in the City
oh yeah,
because
yeah,
that's an actual sympathetic role, even though it's doom in the end.
right.
There are no happy endings in classic film noir. Well, there are, but
Yeah, yeah. So getting to see those was fantastic. And then revisiting the ones that I could find from last year, which I think I want to say like 6 of the 8 movies are readily available. Um, so I didn't get to No, I was able to rewatch everything from last year's Noir City. So In a Lonely Place, Nicholas Ray Bogart movie. South Side 1000,
I haven't seen
which
that.
that one's it's one of those like pseudo documentary
Mm.
type ones. You know, there's like narration and that sort of stuff. T-Men, same with that one too.
Yeah, T-Men's a fun film to watch because it starts off like a documentary and then it takes a sharp right turn into noir about halfway through the film.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
And it was shot by John Alton, so it's gorgeous.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that one's just incredible. And I'm having a brain moment. Um, T-Men has Wally Ford in it.
I think that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, he's the um, little guy that they're trying to chase for like the first part of the movie. Um, I always love seeing him show up. He's like one of my favorite classic character actors. So going into the theater last year, and then seeing his name, up on the screen, I was like, yes, like can't wait.
I get that way every time I see Ella Raines in a cast. It's like,
Oh yeah.
yes.
The Spiritualist. That one also goes under the name The Amazing Mr. X.
Hmm. Yeah, I
Um,
know that film.
yeah, that one's pretty good. I would love to see like a better release of that one. The disc copy that I got is, clearly like it's been around a few times. It seems like a copy of a copy of
Yeah.
a copy.
I think we all have like those like public domain collections of film noir films, and they're all like shot through like they're all mastered through the bottom of a dirty shot glass or something, you know.
Right?
You
Which
know, it's weird because some films benefit from that. I mean, the first time I ever saw a really pristine version of Detour, I thought, man, this film should not have been cleaned up.
and you say that, and I look over. Detour was one of the movies that I picked up in the Criterion sale, and it's like, oh, that's gonna look really
It's
good,
gonna
which
look good, yeah.
is
It's like
bad, kind of.
some movies really resist being prettied up. I mean, I remember a couple of years ago they did a 4K restoration of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and it showed at our local art house here.
Hmm.
And they had it was part of a series of 4K restorations, and they were like major restorations because it was like Night of the Living Dead, which wound up on Criterion, which actually really benefits from the 4K restoration, and
Hmm.
Suspiria, which really benefits from the
Oh
4K
yeah,
restoration. And then the
yeah,
Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and you're like, this still looks grainy and grungy, and you know where you would ever want to be. You
yeah,
know?
yeah, exactly. No, I want that movie to look like it's just eternally on 35 millimeter or something. Like I want
Yeah.
it to pop and hiss at me a little bit.
Yeah, I have no idea why anybody would ever want to blow up or would ever want to watch The Evil Dead on a Blu-ray. I mean,
Yeah,
because
no,
that film
exactly.
was shot on 16 and blown up to 35. I mean, you're gonna
Yeah,
see every single speck of the film grain.
yeah, yeah. Like
So
yeah, there's movies that I for sure just don't. Yeah, I don't want to see them cleaned up. I want them to
yeah,
look dirty. I want to feel gross after
and
watching it.
and for
I need
me,
a shower.
Detour is that film.
Right, right. Um, so also revisited Phantom Lady.
Oh, I love that film.
Uh, I know that was a great one, and I was talking about it during like a live thing that my one of my friends on Instagram does, like a live cooking class on Mondays, and I had thrown in the comments like, oh, I'm watching noir films like Noirvember type of thing. And her husband was like, uh, and I had said next up was Phantom Lady, and he's like, you have to watch Confidentially Yours. And I was like, okay, I'd never seen it before. And he's like, gotta watch it. And I was like, oh, this is like really kind of a great. I didn't watch them on the same night, but I think they'd make a good double feature. You've got like, um, these like take charge kind of women solving solving mysteries and stuff like that. But that one was really charming though. I really got a huge kick out of that. The one that I wish I could find, or I wish would get a an actual release, um, from last year's Noir City was Fly By Night, which is more comedy, I think, than like a real. It's almost a little. How do I want to say? Maybe like, not really like a satire, but it's definitely like more of like we're kind of poking fun at at the genre a bit, but it is just like such a hoot. And that was the last movie for last year, so it really ended the whole thing on a high note.
Hmm.
Send people out laughing with a smile after sitting through 7 other movies that were just like, like this is kind of a lot. But yeah, that one, gosh, yeah, like I every it's like every couple months I'll just go to Google and just look and see like, well, maybe somebody's got, some bootleg or whatever out there. And it just is not.
Yeah, I don't want to direct people to like look for stuff that's uploaded illegally, but there is a ton of film noir at archive.org. I mean, there's an entire catalog of it. And some of
Yeah.
it is absolutely under copyright and you shouldn't watch it. You should go buy the film. Um, but no, seriously, you
No,
should,
really,
because
yeah.
because if that stuff is gonna get restored, I mean, there needs to be a market for it. Otherwise, it's not going to get restored.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there are a couple of films that the Film Noir Foundation restored last year. A couple of Argentinian films that I refuse to see on bootleg sites because I want them to still have a market. Oh my God, have you seen The Bitter Stems? It's amazing.
No, but that is something that Eddie brought up. He did a Q&A, for VIP ticket holders.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. um, and that was something that he brought up is, what to look for. And he would like to do kind of a, like a split program next year that would be about half and half between U.S. produced noir films and then stuff from around the world, because he's like, there's a wealth of films out there from other countries. We all kind of think of France maybe, but countries that you would never think of. And that's exactly what he brought up. He's like, we've got a couple of Argentinian films. And, everybody in the audience is like, ooh, you can hear like shifting in
Mm.
seats, like kids before Christmas. It was really like, everyone is there. Like, so, um, I can't wait to see.
Well, I mean, The Bitter Stems and The Beast. What is the name of that film? The Beast Must Die, I think, which is not the film. Is not like
Not,
the Peter Cushing film.
right, right.
And I think there's another one too. El Vampiro, that's the other one.
Mm,
They're all available because because they partner with Flickr Alley, and you can get them from them on DVD or not, and on Blu-ray for that matter.
mm,
And I mean, I have a really crummy public domain copy of Too Late for Tears, which is a film with Elizabeth Scott and they just restored that and put that out. So I
Oh
mean, they're
wow.
available. So that, I mean, they're working to do it, but there needs to be a market for it, and
Yeah.
we have to step up if we're gonna
Exactly.
have nice things.
Right. Yeah. And we can't rely on streaming.
No.
You know, I this that could be a whole separate recorded
Yeah.
conversation for
I mean,
sure.
one of the things that I've done during the pandemic, because I've had like, disposable income from during the pandemic. I've done pretty well during the pandemic. Is that I mean, I bought a ton of physical media.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got another keynote order coming tomorrow.
Ah,
um, but I mean, I bought a bunch of Criterions,
mhm.
bought a bunch of used stuff from like the golden age of DVDs, like the Warner Brothers stuff.
Oh,
I have two copies of Narrow Margin, and I need to send you one of them.
oh,
So
great. Yeah, for sure.
I don't know if you've ever seen that film. It's wonderful.
I have not, but hey, any overflow that you have, feel free. Um, yeah, I kind of slacked off on buying physical media for a while, um, because it's a storage issue at this point. It's like
Yeah, I
I'm
know that. I
gonna
know that feeling.
yeah, I'm
I have
gonna
something.
die
I
them.
have something like 2,000 titles on physical media.
I
I
don't
owned
even want to count. Like I'm afraid.
I owned a video store in the 90s. We opened with about 700 titles on VHS. So,
Like,
I mean, when we
ooh,
closed, we had about 5,000, but I mean, because we were like crazy about buying stuff really fast, and we were in business for, I think, 4 years. So you do the math.
yeah,
But
oh God.
um but yeah, I'm getting close to opening a video store. I still think like a video store owner when I buy stuff.
Mhm.
And I know, and I've been keeping an eye on who's going out of business. Like when Olive Films went out of business this year, I bought a bunch of Cary Grant films that they had. Plus, they had a couple of John Ford films that I wanted. I wanted The Quiet Man, and I wanted
Mhm.
Or not Fort Apache, Rio Grande on
Oh,
Blu-ray, and
yeah.
they had the franchise, and now they're getting expensive.
Mm.
It's like when
Yeah.
Twilight Time went out a couple of years ago.
Oh,
So
right. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, you
that
got
those
it.
Twilight Time discs are spendy now.
Yeah, that's serious cheddar there.
Yeah, I was fantasizing this year of when they had the Powerball was at like 2 million or $2 billion or some shit. I was like, I thought, if I was to win this, I think I would probably buy out Olive Films in Twilight Time and see about resurrecting them.
Yeah, I'd probably, well, first you're gonna need a bigger house.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you
And
got $2
then,
billion, then yeah, sure, why not?
yeah, I mean, that's a drip in the bucket right there out of that two B. But yeah, I need a bigger house. And then yeah, I'd just buy like just a shitload of, I don't even think it would be like a physical media room. It would have to be like, here's the vinyl room, right? Then here's the movie room. And then here's like,
I have friends that sets that their houses up like that.
yeah,
I have friends that are like vinyl nuts and have been since like the 80s, and they're just like they've got so much. I have a friend who has so much vinyl in one room of his house that he had to move it all out so that he could reinforce the joists under the room in his
it's just
house.
gonna like
Yeah.
to prevent collapse or
Yeah.
personal injury.
I'm just glad that I'm not relying on laser discs, because laser discs are incredibly heavy.
Oh God, yeah. Yeah,
So,
no way.
so
No.
yeah. So what horror films did you see this year?
So so I'll start with like uh one that I watched. I haven't seen the first one. And it was, I think, I'm sure the first one was just as much silly nonsense. as the second one, but The Nun 2.
Oh God.
I saw that at the drive-in for Shelley's birthday, actually.
Well, if you're gonna see that movie, the drive-in is the place to see it.
I think it's probably the best setting for that kind of thing. Um, Now, like, there was a little bit of the movie that I missed, like some of the dialogue at the beginning because we were trying to sit outside, but the weather was also really uncooperative. It was very cold and rainy.
Ugh.
So I was like, no, I got to get back in my car. But I'm sure whatever dialogue I missed in that first 15 minutes had absolutely no bearing on the plot whatsoever, because is there really even so much of a plot? It's just like more nun ass kicking action against a demon or whatever. I looked up all of the major points and a synopsis of the first movie on Wikipedia afterwards, and I'm like, yeah, it is just absurdity. I know it all ties into the greater Conjuring universe, which has become sort of like the Marvel Cinematic Universe of dumb horror movies. Um, I will admit to liking the first Conjuring, despite my very serious um, dislike of the Warrens as real people. Um, but I think I can kind of separate this, fact from fiction.
Sure.
They sucked.
They did,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, and again, a whole nother show could be done about. And you should have Dave Gray on.
Yeah, I should, yeah.
He
It's
will.
like all you need to do is let's just start the camera and say the Warrens. And you've got the entire show right there.
And
I
then
just
just
completely
have
mapped out.
popcorn and
Yeah,
just watch him go. But yeah, that whole group of films has gotten out of control. But The Nun 2 was very silly. And I mean, there was some little jump scares in there that were kind of fun, but I have no desire to see the first one. I'm pretty sure I'll survive as a human being not seeing the first Nun movie. On a more serious note, and uh, even though the movie itself came out or was released in 2022, it didn't get wide release until earlier this year, was Skinamarink.
right. I didn't see that
Um,
actually.
so I got some really good advice from our friend Stever before watching it, because I think if I had gone into it cold, I would have been like, what the fuck is this shit type of reaction. But he said, uh, you have to understand that it's it's really an experimental film. And this is a queer director, um, and it's very personal.
Hmm.
Um, so if you can keep that in mind while watching it, you might not be as hard on it, because there's a lot of like the camera is like pointed in the corner of the room, and you just hear sort of whispered voices in the background, and you keep thinking, well, maybe something's gonna jump out or materialize from the walls, and it never does. So if you think about stuff kind of like, David Lynch's experimental films in that kind of vein, um, then it's a little bit more rewarding. You may still be exhausted by it. Your mileage definitely may vary on that one, but um, I thought it was good. I also think you have to watch it in the right setting. In the theater probably would have been fantastic. I decided, knowing what little bit I knew about it, and with the visual style and the soundtrack for it, I sat in the front room of our house, turned off all the lights, put my headphones on, like over-ear headphones, and watched it on my laptop. And there's definitely some parts in it where I was like, man, I think I might have to turn a light on, because it sort of, I don't know, kind of gets into that, like some of those childhood fears of like the dark, or just hearing weird noises at night, and like, what is that? So if you can be very forgiving and knowing all of that going into it, I I would recommend it. But a lot of people, I think, because it got so much hype, as does every horror movie, it's the scariest film.
Of
You
course.
know, the hype machine just works overtime. And I'm sure coming out, it came out on Shudder. That's how it was released here in the States. And for better or worse, they're gonna ramp it up that way.
Mhm.
Like, oh, you got to see this. It's absolutely terrifying.
Sometimes it's justified too. There's good stuff on Shudder.
Oh, absolutely. I picked up a subscription to that. Eventually I'm just going to be subscribed to all the
Yeah, I know
streaming
that.
channels. Damn it. But yeah, I got a subscription to that, and even just scrolling through, I was like, oh my God, like, God, I haven't seen that one in a while, or oh, I've heard good things about this. And even their original stuff,
Yeah.
um, they've got some good material on there. But
Well,
yeah,
the thing about Shudder is that if you watch just two things on it a month, it's paid for in my mind, because I compare it to like what a video rental used to cost.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because I mean, yeah, and I was spending $12 every weekend on video rentals when I was a teenager.
Oh man,
I mean,
yeah.
Shudder's half that price, so what the hell?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, for sure. That one's one of the, like, I don't want to say cheaper, in well, less expensive. It's one of the less expensive.
Economical,
Economical. Thank you very much. Not spendy.
not spendy. Yeah. I mean, Shudder has two or three of my favorite films this year. I mean, if you haven't seen Husera, the Bone Woman, get on
Okay.
that. It's a queer film directed by a queer woman, and it is like it's like a repudiation of North American commercial horror these days, which is all about
Mhm.
the primacy of the nuclear family.
Yeah.
And this film is like, no, no, this is not for everyone. Shudder was like, and I discussed this with Aaron when I was on his podcast. Shudder is like, trying to sell this as a folk horror story, and it's not. It's a body horror story. But
Mm,
you'll see what I mean when you see the film.
gotcha.
Influencer was good, um, and Perpetrator was good.
Oh,
So,
excellent.
those are on the list of stuff that I saw this year.
Yeah.
So what was the third film?
Oh boy.
As if I
So
didn't know.
yeah. So uh, David Gordon Green and Danny McBride continue their destructive path through classic horror films. They've already shit all over the Halloween franchise, and now they bring us The Exorcist, Believer, which uh, is supposedly the first of a planned trilogy. I have a feeling that this trilogy may not come to light, because this is an absolute shit film in the series, which is riddled with shit films. So it takes a special one to really stand out as being particularly bad. And boy, howdy, was this a really terrible film. I mean, it stems from the script,
Hmm.
which.
Is it as bad as Exorcist 2, The Heretic?
So here's the thing: The Exorcist 2, The Heretic, starring Dickie Burton and James Earl Jones.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you can at least watch that movie with your drug of choice. Pick whatever, and get like maybe a couple of friends, and like go to town on that kind of movie, right? I mean, that one is like bad, but it's like entertainingly bad,
Mm.
right?
My my favorite scene in The Exorcist 2 is when the big, human form forms from the locusts.
Yeah,
I mean, that's actually a pretty cool image.
yeah. I
That's
mean,
really the only thing I remember from that film because I haven't seen it in 35 years.
yeah, the imagery in that movie is at least somewhat interesting. You know, the swarms of locusts and that like weird flashing hypnosis machine. Um, you know, the it's what Louise Fletcher, I think, is the
I think
doctor
that's,
in
yeah.
that one. Um, so you know, there's kind of cool stuff happening in that one, but like Believer is like I don't even know where to start. Like, um, so this time it's two girls that get possessed, not just one. Double your money. We get two, and
Pazuzu
it's
is multitasking.
you could to me the whole that whole like premise just reeks of like a bunch of guys sitting around a boardroom table going, what's worse than one girl being possessed? Two, we'll have two in there and people will lose their shit, right? And it's like, no, guys, come on. Because when you meet the second girl, because the first girl is like, there's like a premise with her parents in Haiti, and it exploits the earthquake
Oh God.
there, the incredibly destructive and harrowing earthquake that took place, exploits that for horror, which right off the bat, you know, like, okay, we're not in good hands here. But um, that girl and her father are clearly the focus of the film. And then when we get introduced to the second girl, she's such a side character from the start that you know she's fodder, right? It's not like, oh, who's going to be saved at the end? We know who it is. It's Leslie. Spoiler warning. Sorry, but honest to God, like, don't if you haven't seen this movie yet, um, I would say don't bother, especially if you consider yourself a fan of The Exorcist, or even if you're not a fan of it so much, but you respect what it brought to the genre initially, and you know can at least say, well, you know, like Friedkin did a great job directing it, and the cast was amazing, or you know whatever. This film just like absolutely shits on the legacy of that movie. It's so disappointing, and they get so many things wrong about it. Again, it's like, okay, instead of having one exorcist, we're gonna bring in like four or five different faiths. And on its own, that's kind of an interesting concept because it you know, the rite of exorcism is not strictly a Catholic thing. It exists in so many other um, religions, but when you have that much, you can't really build a background for each of them and make them meaningful. It's just like,
Mm.
well, we got the Protestant and this Catholic guy, but he's not actually going to be part of it. So this like failed nun is going to stand in for him. And then we have like a root worker, and just all of this random shit that nobody's connected to it. And not even as like a last resort, like in the first film, like Chris McNeil is like an atheist pretty much, or she's very much just like, God's not part of the equation here, but she's just run out of ideas,
Right.
and it's like, this is kind of my last resort sort of thing. Whereas here, they're like, we're just going to start with everybody right off the bat. We're just going to throw everything and the kitchen sink that we can.
I have an
And
anecdote for you there. A few years ago, I went to Dragon Con, and I saw one of the guys that was the skeptic on one of the ghost hunter shows, and I don't remember which ghost hunter show it was. And he talked about they had entered this house, and they had this thermo scanner that they were pointing at the walls, and they found this really warm part of the wall, and the first thing the ghost hunters thought was, this is a portal to another dimension. And the skeptic guy was like, no, it's a rat's nest, or
right.
or something else.
There's a
There's a bug.
raccoon stuck
Yeah,
in the
there's a
wall.
raccoon there that's made a nest there or something. And so, they go through the house, and then at the end, they break down that wall to find out what's there, and it's a beehive.
Oh,
But no, the first thing they do is they go to no, it's a portal to another dimension.
yeah, exactly. Like, and that's kind of what this movie does. Like, there's no question. And it doesn't help that, like, so the makeup design that they choose for the girls, if you think back to the original, like, Dick Smith was a wizard, right? And he knew how to build makeups that it still looked like the person underneath, right? Just an enhanced or an older or a worse version of the original person, but you could still see and make out their face. The mistake that they make here is, well, every possessed girl looks like Reagan McNeil.
Oh God.
Right? They build up the brow in the exact same way. And it's like, no, they should look like who they are, but demonic.
Right.
So failed on that account. At one point, one of the girls pulls the "Do you know what she did? Your cunting daughter" line out at Chris McNeil, who returns for this. They got Ellen Burstyn. I hope they paid her so much money that she can happily retire.
Maybe she bought a house.
Oh God, I hope she bought something really nice for herself
I do
as a
too.
treat for enduring this shit film. But to me, you bring a line like that back, and it's clearly just for, I wouldn't even say for the diehard fans. It's for people to go, oh, I recognize that line, but it
Yeah.
has no emotional impact, right?
That reminds me of Michael Keaton in The Flash. Did you see that film by any chance?
No, but I almost saw it, because
It's
I saw a trailer for it and he was in it. They brought him back as Batman.
Yeah, but I mean, he exists mainly to deliver, like, fan servicey lines, like, you want to get nuts, let's get nuts, and I'm Batman, and I'm like, oh my God. But I mean, that entire film was like an exercise in fan service and digital necromancy.
Oh God. I decided that I couldn't. Maybe I'll watch it. I
Don't pay anything for it,
Yeah,
please.
yeah, that's the thing, is I want to try to find it. That one I will probably pirate, like, not even through, I can't even watch it through streaming, I think. And it has to do with the whole Ezra Miller thing.
Yeah.
I'm just like, can't do it. But yeah, there's all these moments where they do all of these callbacks to the original film, but they don't have any emotional impact.
And they don't have anything new to offer either. I mean,
Oh.
I mean, they're like vampires. They're like attached like ticks to your nostalgia.
Yes.
You know, that's what they're doing. They're just sucking the nostalgia and the money that goes with it out of your body with, like a
So,
pointed proboscis, you know. I mean,
oh,
I think that, the executives at DC and Marvel, I mean, I think of them as bed bugs anymore.
yeah, exactly. They're milking it as hard as they can, and it's going dry, guys. Let's be
Yeah.
real here.
I
It's
mean,
it's
people are tired of it. They want something new.
yeah, yeah. I think, like, as much as we've been rewatching all of the MCU
Okay.
movies, my folks and I, and we're watching them in timeline or chronological order. So we started
Okay.
with Captain America, or, yeah, the first Captain America movie, and then moving up chronologically. Um, and we're going to include the television shows too.
Oh
So
God.
it's going
That's
to
a lot of
feel
homework.
it's like the Bataan Death March of movie watching. 2024 is going to be maybe the hardest year of my life.
Oh
We're
Jesus.
going to
There's
pick
like
it up.
38 films. I mean, and how many TV shows are there now?
Too many, I
I
think, is
know.
the
Oh my
answer to
God.
that. So we just finished the Infinity War section of the entertainment. So we're going to be getting into the multiverse
Okay.
shit now. So we have to start with Loki, right? With
Right.
that show. Oh God. Like,
That show at least is good.
yeah, yeah, the show. I've liked the TV shows
Hmm.
for the most part, but I'm kind of not looking forward to it. But my parents and
Yeah.
I asked them stupidly. I was like, we rewatch all the Marvel movies. What do you think? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, what did I just get myself into? Like, you fool. But yeah, so the Exorcist, it's really a waste of a good cast too.
Yeah.
The cast list is fantastic. They wasted Leslie Odom Jr. As
Oh
the
God.
main girl's father. He's wonderful, but it's a bad film. Um, they have oh, I can't think. Well, it's Norbert Leo Butz and Jennifer Nettles play the other girl's parents.
Okay.
They're wonderful to see. Um, and Ann Dowd is the
Ah.
biggest waste in this
So
movie.
so what you're saying is that it's tremendous resources misapplied wholesale.
Yes. It's the very definition of that phrase. It's just so. And then of course Ellen Burstyn. Oh God! Oh, I haven't even talked about my favorite line in the movie. So in the universe of in this universe of The Exorcist, because there's a TV show too, which we started watching. We've gotten, I think, through almost through season one, which that sorry, I'm sidetracking here for a minute, but that show exists in the same universe as the original film.
Okay.
And if for anyone who hasn't seen it yet, it's been out long enough, but spoiler warning, um, the mother in the show is Gina Davis. She's played by Gina Davis. She has two daughters, and one of which becomes possessed. We find out, I think, a little over halfway through the first season that she's actually Reagan McNeil. Gina Davis's character is Reagan McNeil,
Hmm.
and she's been on the outs with her mother, who kind of capitalized on the whole experience, wrote a book about her daughter being possessed. And, this caused a lot of tension between Chris and Reagan, understandably so. But Chris McNeil is played by Sharon Gless of Cagney and Lacey fame, and is incredible. I mean, the TV show is actually like feels very much in line as much as it could for a Fox TV show with the original film. Now in The Believer, or in Exorcist Believer, Chris McNeil also had a writing career. She gave up acting, but she becomes one of the like preeminent scholars on exorcism. It's fucking ludicrous, right?
I see.
But she just studies it, right? And has written books and is, sort of the person that you go to, the lay person that you go to if you want to think about exorcism. So that's where Leslie Odom Jr. ends up. And, it's so fucking stupid. I'm sorry. But he goes to
So what you're saying is that the Exorcist universe is now a multiverse too, like kind of like Halloween, because at the end of Halloween 2, the original one, I mean, Dr. Loomis dies, and then Halloween 3 is completely different, and then Halloween 4, Loomis is alive again,
right.
And then Laurie Strode dies in Halloween Resurrection at the beginning of the film, and then she's alive again, and instead of having Josh Hartnett for a son, she's got daughter and a mom and a granddaughter, and I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah, you can't. I don't think you can map it out without like winding up in a rubber room somewhere.
It's Charlie Day with the
it is. Thread. It's like you're like a cigarette clamped between your fingers, and you're just wildly pointing at
I did not see The Exorcist Believer, but I did see some of the other franchise horror this year. I saw The Evil Dead Rises, which I hated.
I had no interest in it. Interest in
it. It's interesting though, because I saw that and I saw Talk to Me, and in both films, the dumbass that precipitates the supernatural shenanigans in both films is played by a trans-masculine actor from Australia.
Oh, the same actor.
Not the same actor.
Oh, two
different ones.
Trans-masculine actors.
Yeah, but that is weird. That is a weird sort of specific sort of thing to happen.
It is.
And then I saw Scream 6, which is a film that so abuses the immunity idol that keeps characters alive that it's just so hard to even deal with.
I didn't see it.
You see one character, stabbed on a subway repeatedly, and she survives. Spoiler alert.
Oh God.
I'm like, oh my god! It's just, it's so bad. I mean, it weirds me out that the best franchise horror film that I saw this year was Saw X.
How?
Because it's actually not bad.
Oh, I'm so glad we're recording this.
I know because I hate the Saw movies. I fucking hate them, and I have one of those unlimited passes at the local theater. So,
yeah.
I mean, I just, go up, show them my phone, and just walk in with no money exchanged. And that's the only reason that I saw this film. And I was like, okay, I can live with this. I mean, it has a more comprehensible rationale for Jigsaw's shenanigans.
Oh, God.
But, it's one of those films, and there's like been a lot of them lately that, if billionaires were self-aware and paid attention to pop culture, they would look at the kinds of things that are being done in horror movies, and they would think, oh shit, the pitchforks really are coming.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, because I watched Glass Onion a couple of weeks ago. I
Oh
watched it
yeah.
last year when it originally dropped, but then
Yeah.
I felt the need to rewatch it, and I think I like it better than Knives Out, um, because it is because history has been kind to it. Because that came out right before a noted billionaire bought a specific social network, and
Hmm.
the reason that I watched it is because of like the Cybertruck.
Oh
And
yeah.
I watched Glass Onion, and I'm like, yeah, this is like ripped from the damned headlines.
Yeah. I need to go back now that all of that's happened. Yeah, I've got to revisit that one because we watched Knives Out not too long ago. I want to say like maybe early October.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, I've got to rewatch that considering everything.
Yeah,
Been
I mean,
going
yeah, he's absolutely Edison Muskox in that film. He really is. I guess you could consider A Haunting in Venice a franchise horror film too. I mean, I know it's a whodunit based on Agatha Christie, but it feels like a horror film, and I was actually surprised by that film because I hated Death on the Nile. I thought Death on the Nile was the kind of film that ends careers. Um, and I'm glad they made A Haunting in Venice. First of all, I mean, it hasn't been made into a major film before. I mean, the only version of it that I can think of is on the David Suchet Poirot series.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah.
because it's Halloween Party is the book.
Mm,
And
mm,
the other thing that they did is they picked one of the weakest Poirot novels
yeah.
and and kept the premise, but threw out everything else. and and it's set in Venice rather than set in the I think it was set in the United States. I don't remember. It's been a while since I read that book.
Hmm.
And by setting it in Venice, you start getting sort of echoes of Don't Look Now, and
Yeah.
one of the mechanisms of how Poirot perceives things is very much reminiscent of Don't Look Now. Um,
Mm.
and it's got a really good cast. I'm sure that when it was offered to Michelle Yeoh, she looked at it and says, "Wait a minute, I don't have to train for this. I don't have to do any kung fu,
No fighting?
no fighting." And I was like, she's not a spring chicken anymore, so she's like, "Oh well, I'll take this. Yay for the Oscar! Look what it's opened up for me." But yeah, I mean, I was surprised. I mean, it's the best of the Kenneth Branagh Poirot films by a long mile.
Yeah, I didn't see the last one, Death on the Nile, but I saw the first one was Murder on the Orient Express,
Yeah,
right? Yeah,
yeah.
I watched that and was like, this is insufferable.
It is. I mean, at least the original version of, well, not really the original version. At least the version from the 1970s with Albert Finney as Poirot was actually a pretty good movie.
Yeah, that one's good fun for sure. This one is just
Yeah, it's very. I mean, Branagh doesn't understand the absurdity of Poirot. I don't think.
no, no, I don't think so either. And it had like a sheen of fun to it. It seemed very colorful and like, but yeah, no, it was a major disappointment.
Yeah,
To the point where I was like, well, I don't really want to watch Death on the Nile. But I did hear a lot of good things from other people about A Haunting in Venice. So
yeah. I mean, it's
um,
pretty good. It's a pretty good movie. I mean, I wouldn't count it as my favorite horror film of the year, but it's in the conversation.
nice.
I mean, if you wanted to make a list of the 20 best horror films or the 15 best horror films of 2023 and put that film on it, I don't know that I would argue with it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's certainly better than Saw 6, which I keep seeing on these damn lists.
Oh
I mean,
God.
at least it looks like Saw 7 or not or
Oh, Scream.
Scream 6, I'm sorry. At
No,
least
that's okay.
Scream 7 looks like it's just not going to happen.
Oh yes, please. Enough with
Yeah.
the Scream and the Saw movies, which I almost don't want to say this. I almost don't want to speak it into existence, but like every 10 years or so, I rewatch like all of those movies back to back to back, right? And it's just such a torture run. It's
That seems like a joyless exercise.
you know, it always sounds like a good idea at first, and then I get like 2 movies in, and I'm like, what was I thinking?
Just skip to the end next time.
Yeah, I watched, because I tend to like watch them when like another one has come out.
Hmm.
So it's like, okay, I'm gonna, watch them all and then plunk the newest one at the end. And I didn't do that though, because it's not, I guess, technically a Saw. It's like a Saw adjacent, but Spiral. I saw that. I don't
Right.
think it was anytime this year. I
It
think
was
I
a
may
couple
have
of years. Yeah,
watched
that
it.
came out last year, I think.
Yeah. So, and I was like, it's all right. Um, was
I mean,
the
the nice
best.
thing about the new one is that if you want to rewatch them in order in preparation for the new one, you can stop after Saw One and just watch this one next because it's set between Saw One and Saw Two.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
so you don't have to do the entire grind for
You
this
have
one.
to go through. Oh
I should
God,
I
yeah.
should I should also mention that yeah, even though I kind of liked Saw 10, it wouldn't make my list. I think most of the franchise horror this year was all just dog shit, depending on how you define franchise horror. I mean, is the
Yeah.
haunting of the is the last voyage of the Demeter franchise horror? I mean, it certainly wants to be franchise horror.
Mm.
But I mean, because it's a Dracula movie, and Universal is going to run Dracula into the ground every 10 years.
He just keeps coming back.
I mean,
Hmm.
I thought that film was one of the best horror films of the year, but then at the end, it does this franchise building thing, and it has a certain justification because
Hmm.
I mean, it occupies the entirety of Chapter 7 of Dracula, and there's still the rest of the damn book.
Ah,
So,
gotcha.
I mean, yeah, they could do that if they wanted.
Yeah.
Didn't make enough money, which is too bad.
Mm.
So, but it was a pretty good film.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of what else I saw this year that was good. That was good. Talk to Me was okay. I liked Talk to Me, but I liked the story more than I liked the execution. I thought that the sound design and the sound mixing was just absolutely crap in that movie,
Uh,
and I didn't really like the color grading either. So
yeah, I'm having a harder and harder time with that kind of stuff. I feel like sound design and like cinematography is really.
I blame the sound design thing on Christopher Nolan.
Yes, I was as soon as you said that, I all I could think of was Tenet, which I watched. I, I mean, I watched it at home so I could like control the volume level and make it what I thought would be acceptable. And
Subtitles.
I don't know. I was just like, what the fuck is happening? Who said what? What's happening now? Like I've never felt like as much like old man yells at cloud as I did during that movie. And I thought maybe
Yeah.
it's me. Like maybe I should get like my hearing tested or something. But no,
Yeah.
that movie is a disaster. And I understand like, for artistic reasons, we want to shoot as natural as possible and all of this. But I feel like, look, films are artificial no matter
Exactly.
what. That's baseline. And it doesn't
Well, no,
matter if you're making a science fiction movie or a comedy or even a documentary, it's artifice.
yeah.
So, like, please, I understand that you want to feel all artsy fartsy about how you're shooting your movie, but
Yeah, it's Batman for fuck's sake.
yeah, exactly. I mean, it's a big science fiction joint. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, this doesn't compute to me like why you would want to do that. Um, yeah, that movie annoyed the hell out of me. So,
I think I'm the only person on the planet that did not go to see Barbie or Oppenheimer.
oh, I did the Barbenheimer.
So
I did the Barbenheimer double feature. I went to little movie theater the next town over, the little independent movie theater.
I
I say
am.
independent not because they show any kind of like art house films or anything like that.
They're
They're
just
just
not a
not part of the
chain,
AMC
right?
chain of
Yeah.
everything.
I mean, I like the idea of a Barbie film, and I like that it's giving turfs fits.
Yeah.
Because yeah, I mean, not only do you have a trans Barbie in that film, but I mean, the very notion of Barbie, which is a doll that has no genitalia, means that you're assigning gender to that doll based on how it presents to the world.
Mhm. Right.
So
It was my take on the Barbie movie is it was cute. It was entertaining. It's not groundbreaking in any way in terms of feminism or anything like that. Um, it was, I thought it was funny and cute. Like, you know, that's
sure,
about what I expected going into it. But you know how everything, again, the hype machine and people talk and like, oh, you have to take your daughters to this movie and all of this. And
yeah,
to be fair, I do like the idea of the chosen one in this kind of movie being like a middle-aged working mom who has like disconnected from her daughter. It's not the daughter that has to come in and rediscover her childhood or save Barbie. It's the mom. And I was like, that's kind of a cute little twist or whatever, but overall it's not groundbreaking. It may be like a good little like foot in the door for some people where this is sort of new to them.
yeah.
At this point, though, there's kind of no excuse, but you can get into that later.
Well, I mean, you still have lunkheads out there that just don't like girls in their films. So,
Oh, for sure.
and they're
Oh,
they're always going to be out there, which is
yes.
unfortunate. But the world
Oh,
moves on. I mean, I've seen a lot of really good films in which that are made by women, made by you know Latino people, made by BIPOC people. I mean, it's a brave new world, and we're
yeah.
frankly better off for it because I mean, some of the
Oh,
best movies I've seen in the last 10 years have come from the increasing diversity of filmmakers.
mm, yeah.
So, I mean, if you want to cut yourself off from that, go right ahead. If you want to keep
Yeah.
watching, if you want to keep watching Batman movies starring white people, go right ahead.
Right. Yeah, be my guest.
I
um,
mean, it's galling that these people have spent the last 40 years trying to convince the world that Batman is something that adults should take seriously.
yeah,
And
exactly.
don't get me wrong, I like Batman.
Oh, yeah, no,
But
I do too, but I fully also am able to understand the problems with Batman.
oh sure.
Um, but yeah, I mean, come on, folks, it's comic books, right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I blame Frank Miller, but I blame him
Well,
for a lot of things.
Frank Miller and Alan Moore both, I think, have a
Yeah, no,
lot to answer for.
right.
Which is one of the reasons that one of the many reasons Alan Moore stopped making comics. So
Yeah, yeah. You
I mean,
bet.
if you're gonna make comic book movies, where's my Love and Rockets comic?
Yeah, you know what?
I mean, if somebody can make Ghost World into a comic, somebody can make Love and Rockets into a freaking comic or
Yeah,
into a movie
yeah, a new
rather.
movie. Yeah, exactly.
A History of Violence is a comic book movie for crying out loud. So was Road to Perdition, but
Yeah,
nobody talks about that material because Batman makes $1 billion every time you make one of them.
right. Ugh.
So. Well, I think we should probably um, maybe say goodnight here because I mean we're both starting to rant.
Yeah, it's gonna get
It's
there's
just gonna get worse.
5 ideas for whole separate shows, like
Yeah.
the Frank Miller rant hour, why we hate the Warrens, like
Why we hate the Warrens. Yeah, exactly.
it can go on streaming.
Yeah, exactly.
Let
But I
us
mean, it's
know.
great to hear from you. It's been
Yeah,
way too long since we talked, and
very much so. Yeah.
we should
But
probably not go so long next time.
I agree, and I would be up for doing this kind of thing on a somewhat regular basis.
I mean, we do still need to go through jointly that Ford on Fox or Ford at Fox box,
I think, yeah, we should.
or John Ford generally, or Howard
I,
Hawks and John Ford,
I
or
would
the films
love
of the guys
to.
that were in The Men Who Make the Movies. Did you ever see that documentary series? Because you got Ford and Hawks and Raoul Walsh and King Vidor. Um,
No, I don't think I did. I feel like I saw something else that was similar to that, but it wasn't that.
it's
Um,
fun watching interviewers try to interview John Ford. He was just not having it.
good luck.
I mean, did you see The Fablemans by any chance?
I didn't.
Well, John Ford is in that film, and he's played by David Lynch.
Lynch, yes,
And I swear to
absolutely.
God, they get John Ford exactly right in that film.
I gotta watch that, but I think the Ford at Fox set, I think, dusting that off and going through that one,
That
um,
has some great films in it.
there are some incredible movies, and I remember when we did that blogathon,
Yeah.
um, was what, like a couple years ago.
That was, yeah. Mumble years ago.
Mm. There's a lot of those movies because when I went through and watched those, I found there were some that were very groupable, that you could, thematically, or the ones that he did with Will Rogers, of course, would be easy to group
Yeah.
together. But there were other ones, that about like motherhood and the importance of the mother figure and this kind of stuff that was like, oh,
He had a thing for moms.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, let's hear it from Ma Jode, right?
Woo! I would be all in for that though, because it has been probably since then that I really like watched that much John Ford material in one shot. So,
Yeah.
um, you know, to me that'd be a great series.
But we should consider it.
Yeah.
And I think this is going to be it. And I'm going to hit stop, and we can chat after the show.